Hello, I'm Georgie Coleridge Cole, SheerLuxe's founder and CEO, and welcome to today's SheerLuxe podcast. I am joined today by Gary Lavin, who is the founder of VitHit, the UK's leading health drink brand. After a rugby injury ended his career at 24, Gary spotted a gap in the market, people working out and then basically reaching for sugary drinks. And that moment sparked the idea for VitHit. The journey hasn't been 100% smooth. From losing his home during the recession to selling bottles out of a van, Gary stopped at nothing to bring his vision to life. Today, it looks quite different though to that. And it's sold in 15 countries, generates over 100 million euros in retail sales, all without any outside investment. I am a massive fan, cross my heart, I hope to die. Long before I met Gary, I was buying this drink. So it's even more thrilling to have you here today. Welcome.
Thanks a million. That's my life story. So we don't have to talk about anything else now.
We need to talk about all of that. God, I'm fascinated. I mean, as I said, I walked in here today with one of these. I had been drinking these long before I met you. I met you a few years ago now.
Yeah, only 2 or 3 years ago we met.
But I was already a massive fan. So there's so much to cover. But can you take us back to your early days?
Sure.
Rugby, what that taught you?
Yeah, I was actually playing rugby in the amateur era. It went professional. I moved over here to the UK. I got a contract with Harlequins. Time of my life. Everything was amazing. And pre-season training, banged my knee, lost my contract, life over. And if anybody listening to this has lost their job, it was the only thing I could do. I was a rugby player. I didn't know what else to do.
Harlequins, they were mega back in the day, weren't they?
They were,
Are
yeah.
they still?
I never played a game for them because I got injured pre-season, yeah. So I was a nearly man. And I had always been, both my parents were entrepreneurs, so I'd always been buying and selling things. So believe it or not.
Tell me a bit about that. Tell me about the buying and selling before the rugby career that didn't happen.
When Rugby World Cup, many years before that, was on in Europe, in Ireland, I won't even tell you the date because you'll realise how old I am. I thought that I was only a teenager, maybe 19. I thought that people would, because the seats in the stadiums used to be really hard, and I thought I would create a cushion that everyone wanted to sit on, and it was called bummers. So I was selling cushions outside the stadiums with no license to sell it, and the business was a bummer. I hardly sold any. I had to give them all away. So that was one business. Then I actually went into, when I moved to the UK, I don't know, maybe 95 or whatever, I went into women's vitamins, got listed in Boots.
Why did you go into women's vitamins? I
realised that, first of all, there was things missing. I had a product called PMEs. I had another one called menopause, and as in 2 words. Yeah, so I was
you were way ahead of your time, actually.
Well, I was always into health. I was always interested in health, but the business didn't make any money, and I literally just closed it down. I didn't even try and sell it because I was just. I suppose when I look back, I was banging my head against a wall and trying again, and that's the one thing that I would always say to people. Just yesterday was the best time to start a business. Today is the second best time. Just go do it. So I was doing stuff and failing, and eventually, the short term thing was I just kind of fell into this drinks thing because I didn't like taking vitamins myself. So that was one of my thought processes, is that I couldn't swallow vitamins, but I wanted to take them. So I kind of said, well, can you put them into drinks? Along with the fact that I saw everybody drinking sugary drinks back in the 90s and early 2000s, like your average sports drink contains 48 grams of sugar. And I knew through my rugby training that sugar was really bad for you. So that kind of thought process back in early 2000 was probably ahead of its time because nobody really knew the damage the sugar did back then. It wasn't it wasn't public knowledge. But companies are still lacing drinks with sugar, which is, to me, is appalling because, that leads to obesity, and we could go down the whole, the obesity issues. But that's one of the main reasons why I started.
So what year did you launch VitHit? Was it VitHit that you launched?
No, so I was researching from 1998, and I remember the internet was so long ago, but the internet was in such its infancy that you couldn't really Google manufacturers of soft drinks. So I was driving up and down Ireland. Like, I heard there was a manufacturer in Ireland. I went down to see him. Then I said to him, look, can you put vitamins into drinks? He said, I don't know, but there's a research company in Germany. Then I got on a flight to the German company.
How old are you at this time?
I was probably like 24.
You are going to work out your age by the end.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I'm not 24 now. I was kind of researching and doing all of those things and getting the basics of it done. And then I just went ahead and produced what I could afford, which was, let's say, I don't know, 5,000 cases, and stuck them in a warehouse and just stared at them and went, right, now I have to go sell them.
What was it called?
It was called VITZ, V-I-T-Z. And it's another really interesting part of marketing, in that I thought VITZ meant vitamins. That was my whole idea. But no one else did. So after about 5 years of losing money and going to stores and coming back, the worst thing if you're a salesperson is walking into a store and seeing your product hasn't sold. It's soul destroying. So I'd go in and this would happen for about 5 years, and eventually I said I'm going to have to change. Came up with the name VitHit, registered it.
But you had some distribution for VITZ.
Yeah. I was probably in around Ireland. I was probably in like 500 to 1,000, maybe 500 stores in Ireland.
And did it taste like VitHit?
It's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same.
Exactly the same. And this is the amazing thing. For 25 years ago, when the product wasn't selling, there's 2 flavors we have that are now still the same flavors. And we now sell the same in a day that we used to in a whole year.
Wow.
But it's just down to packaging.
I used to work in fragrance marketing. They used to say the name, the bottle, the packaging, the branding, everything was more important than the actual smell of the juice, which used to blow my mind. So it's exactly
so I would always say the product has to look great first. If it doesn't look great, and if it's not obvious, you've no chance.
Yeah,
but then number 2, so people will always try it once if it looks great, but if it doesn't taste great, then you're done. People will never buy it for the second time.
What were the original flavours? Were they the yuzu and...
No, the berry, which I think is available in some stores in the UK, and then there's a citrus one which is available in Ireland. It's not really available here.
Berry is definitely available here.
Yeah,
citrus,
it is. Yeah. Citrus, not so. No,
but I'm a yuzu girl.
But the amazing thing is, when I came up with the brand name VitHit, stuck it on pretty much the same bottle, pretty much the same label, sales went up about 300 or 400% overnight.
Okay, right. You're an Irishman. You talk very quickly. Let's go back a bit. So VITZ was in 500 to 1,000 stores.
Yeah.
In Ireland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just in Ireland.
And we are in 1990.
Well, this was 2000, let's
2000-ish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you decided how long in to rebrand? Was it within, how many years?
I was about 5 years in. 5 years of losing money and not being able to pay my rent and getting depressed, all that stuff. Okay. Which every entrepreneur goes through, by the way.
That must have been quite novel. I'm trying to think what it was like. I mean, there was Lucozade, wasn't there? What else was there in the sports drink market?
There was just basic sports drinks. So we were literally the first in Europe and maybe even in the world. If there was an American product called Vitamin Water, which sold for 50 cent, was an investor back in the early 2000s. We were actually before those guys. So as far as I know, we were pretty much the first in the world. There might have been a couple in kind of beatnik products in Germany or something like that. But yeah, it was basically so mainstream. I mean, I just called into a couple of stores here in the UK, in London, just this morning to see what kind of products are coming through. And there's so much innovation now. But back then, we were the only ones. So there was like Lucozade Sport, Powerade, Coke, Diet Coke.
Oh, I mean, also.
And then Innocent then came along after that. So Innocent would have come in maybe 2006, 2008, that kind of era. But no, this was like, there was nothing like this on the shelves.
Gosh, okay. So early 2000s, you rebrand as VitHit.
Yeah.
And you took everything off the shelf. You took the Vits off the shelf, did you?
I couldn't afford to. I let it kind of sell through and then, when we put VitHit on the shelf, then the difference was just phenomenal. And I learned a lesson then that, you've got to say exactly what it is within the name. Because when I had Vits, if you can imagine this bottle here, Vits said Vits, low calorie vitamin drinks, blah, blah, blah. And it just had so many messages that everything was getting lost. So the most important thing now is VitHit. I don't have to explain. If I took away everything else and just put VitHit there, people would guess that it's a vitamin drink, right?
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. You have to have certain messages in your logo that, the three most important things, first, second, and third. And your first has to be like very large, second, doesn't matter where it is, really. I mean, because people only have 0.3 of a second to decide what they want to buy on the shelf.
There's so much to look at, isn't there?
Yeah.
And this really stands out on shelf, obviously. did it look like this? Did the first version of VitHit look like this? Or pretty close
It's
to?
looked like this for about
sure it's evolved.
14 years.
Okay.
So I kept tweaking it till I knew I got it right. And once I got it right, don't touch it. If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. So once we got it right, which took a lot of tweaks, and eventually then we just left it and we haven't touched it since.
I want to keep going through the story and what happened in 2011 and da. But can you just take a moment to, and a bit of a sales pitch, can you explain what is in here?
Yeah.
Because I think the thing for me is I drink too much Diet Coke.
Yeah.
I don't drink enough water. This says VitHit on it. It tastes really good.
Yeah.
So I just started drinking these as an alternative to water, and they sell them at the health club I go to, and blah blah blah. But I don't know. I know they taste great. I know they're good for you.
Yeah.
And I know they're not water, which I don't like, or Diet Coke, which isn't very good for me. What is in here?
We actually outsell Diet Coke in Ireland. So
you don't?
We outsell them, in Ireland.
You outsell?
Yeah. And a couple of retailers we outsell them here in the UK as well.
Outsell Diet Coke?
Yeah, in Ireland, yeah. Yeah, if you go to Ireland, you'll literally be hitting the face with a bottle of VitHit everywhere you go. I wanted to be everything that, let's say, Coke wasn't. So I wanted to be low sugar. I wanted to be low calories. I wanted to look healthy and be healthy. So what we did was, yesterday I was down in a research lab with the lab coat and a hairnet on doing tastings for like more flavors. And it takes about 1.5 years to get the flavors right because vitamins don't taste great, right?
Yeah.
So you have to kind of mask them with a little bit of juice. So we have juice, water, vitamins and tea, and we kind of mix them all together. And
tea?
Yeah, there's actually teas in all these, and it's just a little extra benefit. So there's green tea in this one, so it'll give you a little bit of a kick of energy, about the same amount as a cup of green tea. So it'll give you a bit of energy. But what I wanted to do was take sugar away. Sugar, here's the thing: sugar tastes great, but it's also highly addictive. So if you want to get in better shape, or you want to get clarity and not clouded of mind, you want to get away from sugar. So that was the whole basis behind it. So we mixed juice with vitamins, with waters and teas, and we just kind of mixed it all up. And it took about 1.5 years to get the first product right. And we know what we're doing now, and we have good technology to get it right, to get all the tastings right.
But ultimately, it's low calorie.
Yeah, it's 85% less sugar than your average drink.
So that's what I think caught me. If I'm going to be really honest. I am someone who is quite vain and doesn't want to drink all my drink it in wine maybe, but otherwise it's Diet Coke and I think the thing for me that really grabbed me that it was so low calorie. Yeah. I used to drink Ribena Light quite a lot when I was a student and beyond actually, but this tastes really good, but it's low calorie and doesn't taste a gross sweetener. Like as I said, generally by the time I'm wondering if I can nab that green one off you. I did PT at 6.
Of course you can, yeah. You can grab whatever you want. I'll get a load delivered to the office as well.
We've got some more upstairs.
But look, like I said, flavour is so important. And when I started this, there was no real health revolution back in 2000. So what I basically said was, look, if my product can look as good or better than sugary drinks, and people try it and it tastes as good or better than sugary drinks, and then they look at the product and go, oh, it's low in sugar, then I knew I would be able to keep a customer for life. And that was the principle behind it. And actually, I just called into a health store here in just near your office, and I looked on the shelf and there was a load of new products, and I bought 2 or 3 of them and I tasted them all, and they actually didn't taste great. And I'm kind of going, you're never going to make it unless the product, they looked nice, and they had interesting things to say on the cans, but I just taste them and I was like, they're not going to succeed. So, that's the basis. You got to look great, taste great, and be great. That's kind of the 3 principles.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about the stage from VitHit hitting the shelves to 2011 when you were told the business was insolvent. Before we get to that point, and obviously, fast forward to where we are now, and it's a totally different story. But how did you get VitHit taken seriously when you got it on the shelf in its new state, in its new product? It was very new, as you said. There wasn't anything like it. I think what's really interesting is, to me, the branding is very commercial, but it's got serious stuff in it. Yeah. So how did you get people to take it seriously?
Well, I think in any business you have to put a flag in the ground, like try and conquer a city or an area So if I was to do it all again, I wouldn't start in London because it's very expensive to conquer London. I would probably start in, I don't know, Birmingham or Liverpool or Manchester, some big city, and try and make it a success there. And then I always try and create FOMO then for the buyers, fear of missing out. So in Ireland, I made it I started in Dublin in kind of upmarket stores there, kind of like market stores. And then from that, I went to Spar stores. Then from that, I went to Tesco. And then from that, I went to petrol retailers, all that kind of stuff. So you build a brand. That was just around Dublin. And then naturally, then from a capital or a large city, it just starts to flow out of there.
Okay.
And so I did that.
And were you working with distributors or were you doing it yourself?
A bit of both. Sometimes I went through 3 or 4 different distributors who... sometimes it's hard to trust that they're going to do a job, because let's say you get a distributor with a brand that's unknown, like VitHit back in the day, and they might be selling Red Bull. The sales guys are just going to sell Red Bull because that's what they're making their commission off. So I used to have to get in the trucks with the sales guys, and I would try and get on well with them. If they like me, then I'd go meet the store managers, and if the store manager liked me, they would give me a shot. So it was all kind of literally on day to day. Calling into stores. And you showing up and you selling the product. And yeah, I'm sure you saw you sell your own product better than anyone, don't you? Yeah. When the company went insolvent, I had a few sales reps working for me, and I had to let them go, and all I had left was a van from one of the sales reps. So I drove around Ireland. Basically, I sat down with an accountant, and she just used the word insolvent, and I was kind of like, I'd never really heard that word before. I was kind of like, it's not good. And so the company was very sick, she said. And she said, you're going to have to fire everybody, and you're going to have to basically, I believe in your product. I've seen 23 companies in this state. I've rescued one of them. I forget, it was a gardening centre, random. And she said, we can rescue you guys, but you need to get off your high horse and get in a car and just go sell. So I was like, right. And why, insolvent, you'd obviously run out of cash. I was paying all the sales reps before I was paying myself. The company was burning, like back in, let's say, from 2007 to 2011, the company was burning through like 10,000 euros a month, which is a lot of money, but it was seriously a lot of money back then when it was just all mine, and I ran out of money. And, the bailiffs were knocking on the door that I couldn't pay my mortgage. I lost my house. I had to, hand the keys back in my house to the bank. They repossessed my car. So it was last chance saloon. How did you deal with that? Extreme optimism, and I'm always a good sleeper. So at night, if anybody, hopefully there isn't, but if anybody here is listening and they're going through kind of struggles, a lot of people then, the struggle ends at night when you can go to sleep. So I used to just, I'd just fall asleep. And then you'd wake up and you'd be like, and the solicitor's letter would be at the door. It was pretty horrific. It wasn't fun. But it motivated me to just work better, work harder, and work more intelligently. And look, most people would put the company into administration, right? You just... but then I'd have to get a real job. That wouldn't be fun. But, that's what happens. SheerLuxe is 18. I've seen it time and time and time again. You didn't. Well, failure wasn't an option. Honestly, I didn't know what else to do. And I knew that someday, that if I could keep getting the product on the shelf, I knew that someday people would buy it. And the product presumably was selling. You were just, you had losses of 10 to 11, you said, and I was €1,000 a month. So exactly. It's not that the product wasn't selling. Correct. It's just, you weren't in profit enough to... Correct. So I had to just change tack. So my overheads were too big. I had 3 sales reps on the roads. I had a distributor. I was giving them all the margin. So I just went back out in the van that I had taken, all I had left, the VitHit branded van that I had taken back off one of the sales reps that I had let go. And I just got in the car and I drove across Ireland, and I sold it into 3,500 stores within about 18 months. I stayed in bed and breakfasts across the country. And oh gosh, it made me emotional. Yeah, and then I literally reversed the fortunes of the company within the first 3 months of doing that. So it was and actually... So you were optimistic. You were like, I can sort this out. Yeah, well, it ended up being a really positive time. The point up to that was horrendous. But from that point onwards, I knew that I was breaking even, starting to make a profit. I knew if I would go into the store and sell them 10 cases, that I knew that I would personally make like €500 for every store. So suddenly I actually I became a much smaller company, but profitable. So it was just me. So I knew every time I'd sell X amount of cases, I wouldn't give it to anybody else. It would just come back to me.
And how were you managing to produce the product without any cash at that point?
Yeah, well,
that's so hard, isn't it?
Well, I had stock to sell, so I had lots of stock in a warehouse. So if I got rid of that stock fast, then I could pull the money back in, give it back to the manufacturer and do it again. So that's pretty much, and the accountant was very busy in those days trying to just hold people off to pay them, and then we'd get paid and we'd hang on to the money for a while and give it to the right people. And so it was like, I was like a ninja fighting off lots of different
Cash
people.
flow is king, as they say.
Yeah,
Cliche,
very much so.
Cliche
And look,
that it is.
and that's another point in that I brought somebody in earlier who was better at accountancy than I was. So everybody's good at something, right? I mean, very seldom people are good at everything. And I was just terrible at accountancy. I was good at selling, good at creating brands. But I realized then I need to get somebody who can just watch the figures.
Yeah.
And then I'll just go out and sell and do what I do well. So
Great.
you know, everybody's good at something, and I was terrible at that. So
but you have to cover off those numbers, don't you?
Yeah.
I always say, you've met my husband. When I started SheerLuxe, I read a book that said "Smart Girls Marry Accountants," and I was like, right, I've nailed it.
Absolutely.
How were you marketing the product? Was getting it on shelves doing that for you? Or was there marketing activity running alongside it? Because it's one thing being in store. It's obviously then got to sell.
Yeah.
And it was a fairly new category. You obviously look great on shelf. That is a huge part of success in supermarket retailing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But how were you? Were you doing any marketing?
We didn't have any money to do marketing. So it was paint the van up, drive around. And I used to put, I created leaves that I would, like paper leaves that said less calories than an apple, and I would throw it over I would go into the stores myself and throw it over each neck of every bottle. So the bottle then would just pop as you'd walk into a store. You'd see like leaves on top of the bottle. Just something that simple.
What, you just sneaking in and doing it?
Yeah, I was just going in and just stick them all on. And the manager would go, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm the owner here. Nice to meet you." Just going to throw it on. Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm in this brand. Never you mind.
Part of it is I guess that's what you'd call guerrilla marketing, but
Yeah.
it was desperation. I mean, I knew that if people weren't buying it, I was out of a job and out of my house, which I already was. So it was last chance saloon. So I was willing to do anything.
So less calories than an apple. I love that. I mean, it worked, Gary, because that is what. I don't remember seeing. I didn't buy one with an apple with a leaf.
No, that was in Dublin. That was in Dublin.
But it really, as I said, that's what caught my eye. This vitamins, the fact that it could replace Ribena or water, and it had low calories. So
got you off the Ribena. Never thought that would happen.
Ribena light. I know. I used to drink a lot of that. You at some point got this into Tesco's and Boots. I think Boots is where I started buying it. When did that happen? That must have been a pretty eureka moment
Boots,
after 18 months in your van and bed and breakfast.
Yeah, so when I then got it successful in Ireland in around 2010, 2011, I came here to the UK and I was living in a 450 square foot flat. And I remember sitting there at my desk, because that was my office and my kitchen and my sitting room. And I going, right. And I started making phone calls. And of course, they don't pick up the phone. So I started getting into small retailers around London.
And how do you do that? Is that you again knocking on the door?
That was me again, yeah, on a moped. Going around with and I basically had a distributor who had some cases of VitHit in the corner, and I said, look, I'm going to go sell it with them like I did in Ireland. And I'd go around in a moped into the store, say, listen, I'm the owner here, can you take this on? They'd take it on, stick it on the shelf, and then the distributor would go back week in, week out to get it there. So I started getting into more and more stores, and then I met up with I won't mention the retailer, but I met up with one of the biggest retailers in the country just through SheerLuxe. I basically just started harassing them, and eventually I kept sending them emails, and I found the buyer's number, and eventually she picked up the phone. I said, look, we're the most successful brand in Ireland. I know Ireland's not the UK, but you need to have a look at this brand. She had a look at it.
That's the piece, isn't it, that everyone's looking for, like the access to that buyer. That was just persistence, was it?
Yeah, just persistence. Throw enough stuff at the wall, it'll stick. So
annoy them so much. They say, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, no, I did. I annoyed them so much because I was kind of like, look, this is a product you need to have on your shelves. You've got sugar everywhere. It's a burning platform. You're going to lose out in retail. you've got to move on to non-sugar
You're
products.
giving them a solution to a problem that they're going to have. Yeah.
Because I could see it happening in the States. I knew it was going to happen in the UK. And if you look at the shelves back then versus now, like there's so much more healthy products because I knew that this was happening and people didn't want to have sugar. So she trialed it on 100 stores. We became the 1, 3 and 4th bestseller of their secondary brand. So like behind Lucozade, Monster, well, Monster weren't there, all of those big products. But she didn't list the product. So this, to me, was mind-boggling. I'm like, well, if we're your best-selling product, we're making you more money, surely you'd stick us on the shelf. And it's one of the things with big retail, they've got deals with all the bigger companies and who are getting free stock and whatever.
Yeah.
So we didn't get listed. So I sent those results.
What do you mean you didn't get listed? So you were available online, but not...
No. So that was a trial. And they just said the trial.
It's sold, but
they said the trial didn't work, and I said no, it did work. She was like, no, it didn't, and I was like, okay. So this was mind-boggling to me. I didn't understand because where I'm from, if you're the best seller, you get in the shelves.
Yeah.
Not in larger countries. So I took that information to Boots. And the Boots buyer said, wow, she said, you must be in every one of those stores around the country. I said, no. And she said, I'm not going to make the same mistake. We're listing you. And I was like, great. And that's why you saw it in Boots. So thank you, Boots. They were the first ones to get it. And again, then I'm sticking a flag in the ground. Now I'm in Boots, a national retailer across the UK. And from that point, then I went to Sainsbury's, I went to WH Smith, I went to Waitrose, Co-op. We've just been told that we're going to get on our last retailer that we don't have with Waitrose, and we're just going to get on the shelves.
I can't believe you're not in Waitrose. About time, Waitrose.
I know. And actually, it's almost like a perfectly Waitrose design type product. You'd think it.
Yeah.
So,
you've been in Sainsbury's for ages.
Yeah, Sainsbury's backed us really early.
Yeah.
And they were amazing.
So your route to the customer is all through...
Yeah, well, we do sell online as well. It's funny, when I first started selling online was around through COVID, when everyone you couldn't get it through retail. And I was like, people aren't going to order cases of VitHit through couriers, and actually they do. So some people don't want to have to go to retail, but sure, we know about that now.
I've got a question here about legal action in 2014 against...
that was interesting.
A competitor, which is really interesting because I remember interviewing the founder of Propercorn, Cassandra, and her saying that sort of a month before she launched Propercorn, which went on to become the best-selling snack in Europe for a period, I don't know if it still is. I remember her saying sort of a month before she launched Propercorn, her heart sank because Tyrrell's were also launching popcorn, posh popcorn, if that's what you want to call it.
Yes.
And actually, she had this panic moment, and somebody said, one product doesn't make a category, and actually, you need more to make a category. So you sort of want a bit of competition, don't you? Because it forces the supermarket to create a serious space on the shelves,
exactly,
and get behind something.
Yeah.
But then there's a limit, isn't there? And
well, there's a line that I don't like.
What was the situation?
I embrace more and more health products because it just means there's going to be less sugar products, and
it's a movement.
More choice, more choice makes everybody healthier, and more people will start buying our products and other products, and the category will grow, and it'll shrink the sugar products. But there's a line that shouldn't be crossed, and that's a branding line. So when we became successful in Ireland, I remember walking into a store one day and I saw a product called Vit Plus, and it actually had a circular logo. It had fruits on the left. It was literally a carbon copy, and I was like, wow. So I went to a lawyer. The lawyer said, oh, it's a bit dodgy. I'm not sure you're actually going to win. And I didn't have the money for it. And then I went and got a second opinion. And the lawyer said, no, this is a slam dunk. We'll get these people. And I said, well, what happens if we lose? He said, well, it's going to cost you 50 grand. And I didn't have 50 grand. This was, around the time when I was trying to build the company back up. So I had to go after them. So because they were definitely stealing our cake. Like we had created this category, and I don't mind competition, but these guys were almost identical. They had almost identical flavors. So we went after them, and my lawyer turned to me and said, don't worry, said, I'll have them bleeding out on the floor. And I went, you're my lawyer. So it took actually it was very fast. It took about a month, and I basically said, look, we're going straight to court. And they were like, no, give us time to discuss it with our barrister and their barrister. And I didn't know much about law back then. I know a lot more now, but I basically said, no. I said, we're going to court. I want to take these guys to court, and I want to show everybody what they've done. And then pretty much in the steps of the court, they did an agreement with us. They pulled all the product off the shelf. And yeah, that was the end of them. Oh, and one other thing I did, which was I actually phoned all the retailers. And I basically said to the retailer, I said, look, I've created this category, started off in 2000. I've been here for 14 years. I've been in a van driving up and down the country. I don't mind competition, but I said, I don't think you should be supporting anybody who is plagiarizing and completely copying me. And about 80% of the retailers agreed, and they didn't list them.
Yeah, quite right. Yeah. Put the pressure on them to do the right thing. So what year are there key, when you look back, was there a tipping point? I mean, you obviously came here, you went out, you met the retailers here, you got listed in Boots and Sainsbury's, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
When did you sort of feel like you could breathe and actually this business that you've been told was insolvent in 2011?
Yeah, it was around...
Because, it's a phenomenal success story, and I know there's lots of innovation in the pipeline and still lots of potential, but, I mean, you've killed it. At what point did you go, okay?
Yeah, it was around 2014, which is mad because if someone had told me in 2000 I wouldn't be able to breathe for 14 years, I wouldn't have done it maybe.
Don't do it. Think very carefully, people.
Yeah. So when you're in that kind of stage, every step you're taking towards success is a step, right? You're not going to, you fail all the time and you only need to succeed once, right? So it was 2014, we were selling 3,000 cases a month in Ireland, and a big distributor approached me, and he said, "Oh, how many cases are you doing?" I said 7,000, and he goes, "Okay, we'd like to take you on." They were the Red Bull distributor in Ireland, and I said, "All right, let's do it." And in the first month, they sold 30,000 cases. So they 10x'd it overnight. So at that stage, I knew that we had a product that sold because I could see it in the individual stores. We just weren't in enough stores. And they multiplied it out overnight. And that's now the case here. So there's probably 45,000 stores in the UK. We're still only in 9 or 10,000 of them. But our rate of sale is so strong. But because we're not a massive company, we can't just turn it on overnight. So it's slowly to get into more and more stores. But it's happening.
So when you say 45,000 stores, you mean that you could be in?
Yeah, so like that's corner stores, Waitrose, Sainsbury's, Tesco, all that kind of stuff.
Right, and you're at about 20-25% of that. So there's a lot of
There's a lot of room to grow, and so all
Waitrose, get your skates on.
all that you need is a good rate of sale in some, like let's say in a grocery store or whatever. So in Sainsbury's, our rate of sale is extremely strong. So we'd go back to Sainsbury's and say, look how well we're doing. We'd like to be in more of your stores, and that's the kind of negotiation that you go through.
I'm really interested. You're in quite a lot of independent as well, sort of local. I mean, I love seeing it sort of become a bit of a game, seeing where you pop up.
Yeah.
As in, I mean, you live in Dubai, but it always amuses me sort of being in Doha or something and being like, oh, there's VitHit, How do you sort of balance big supermarkets, big retailers, with all the small ones? Because obviously, long tail, you want those two, don't you? How does supermarkets feel about that?
Yeah.
Is there an order within which to do that? What advice do you have on that?
Well, it's funny. One of our most unsuccessful, because I'm just talking about the success that we've had, but it's not all high success. So actually in Dubai is our worst per capita territory, and I live there, which is pretty embarrassing, right? But what we did wrong was we went into top-end retail, so the likes of Sainsbury's, Tesco's over there, there's Spinneys and Waitrose and Carrefour over in Dubai. So we went in there, but we didn't seed it from the bottom. We weren't in cafes, gyms, hospitals, colleges, sports centres, that kind of thing, which is what we did in Ireland. It's what we've done in the UK. But you have to be able to build a brand. You can't just go into a country and throw it there and people just see it on a shelf in a retailer. You have to build a story before that. People have to be buying it in their coffee store shops, and they have to be buying it in their local retailers and that kind of stuff. So that was a recent lesson.
Would you?
So we did it the wrong way around. So that's a recent lesson. We're always learning. And, because we had built it, organically in Ireland, did the same thing in the UK and Belgium and Holland and Iceland, wherever else we are around the world. We always did it that way without even knowing we were doing it that way. And then in Dubai, now I've turned it around. In Dubai, it's growing pretty fast now. But I mean, I've been in Dubai for 4 years, and the first 3 years it was a disaster. It was trying to get it right. It was a bit of a mess.
And can you talk to me about the range. What is in the range? How many flavors are there? Can I drink that?
Yes. You've been
Because
staring at that.
I can't remember if I started. So this is apple and elderflower.
That's your go-to.
I'm not being paid to say this. I genuinely drink this all the time. I also love the yuzu and dragonfly water. Is that what it's called?
Dragon fruit. Close.
Dragonfly.
We don't put dragonflies in our drinks,
No,
just to tell everybody.
Would you? I mean, you could. There's probably loads of health benefits. Can you just talk us a little bit through the range? What does it look like? How have you built that up?
Yeah, well, I mean, still in the UK, the larger retailers only take on 2 flavors, maybe 3 if we're really lucky.
Really?
Yeah, Co-op actually have taken on all 4, which is great. But we try and, visually, we try and put in like a rainbow effect. So they're all natural colours. But if you put them like the green beside the pink beside the... So we actually have...
So sorry, all 4 is these 2, the yuzu and dragon fruit, not fly, and the berry one.
Yes.
Got ya.
Yeah, so if you put them beside each other, kind of get a rainbow effect on the shelf. But yeah, they all have different purposes. So each one of them contains less than 35 calories, less than 6 grams of sugar, and we have 100% RDA of 8 vitamins in every one, and we'll throw in a different tea into every one.
What does RDA mean?
A recommended daily allowance.
Oh,
yeah, so it's 100% of all the vitamins that you really need. And each one will have a different purpose. But again, down to branding, like people, if I say to people, which VitHit do you like? They won't say detox. They say, oh, the orange one or the pink one.
Yes.
But they actually each have... Like, so immunity has zinc in it and magnesium in it to kind of keep away colds and flus.
Gosh, I've never noticed that.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to kind of say that on anything.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just, look, the thing about it is that we don't get enough vitamins in our day. So one of the basic premises here is that if you drink this, you'll get a load more vitamins than you normally would every day. And that's a real benefit to people.
Yeah. And so you've got the 4, and then citrus, which you said is in Ireland. You've got, say, 4 or 5 flavours. You've got the cans.
Yes, the cans are awesome. They're my favourite of all of our products.
They're
but
great.
we just don't have the distribution. I'm surprised you found them actually in the UK. And I must send you, we have effervescent as well now. So basically the little sachets you can throw into water.
Oh, yeah, I have actually had them.
Okay. So the reason why
You gave me some, they were really good.
The reason why I created that was a different serving occasion. Because most people just drink VitHit for lunch. And I was actually over in Dubai going, I really want to drink something, but I don't want a VitHit bottle at breakfast. So I was kind of like, okay, what do we need to do?
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, so we created the effervescent one. So we've got an energy, we have defense, and basically you just drop it into water. It'll taste like VitHit, and you knock it back.
We crossed paths in Mykonos a couple of years ago,
That's right.
And you had a load of them, and I thought they were delicious.
Yeah.
Where are they on sale?
You can get them online, vithit.com. That's where you get those, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's rehydration one, which is one that most people need, especially in the summer.
They taste great as well. Way better than other.
Again, it took me like a year and a half to come up with the formulas for them because I didn't want to send something out that people would know VitHit, that it tastes great, and then suddenly they take an effervescent and go, it doesn't taste great.
Yeah,
So
and they don't taste
that's really
salty
important.
like a real electrolyte. So you've got these, you've got your cans, you've got your sachets.
Yeah.
What's the best seller?
These guys.
Which flavour?
Used to be the green one, but now it's a dragon fruit and yuzu. Yeah, that kind of got stronger because it's immunity, and it got stronger during COVID, and it actually overtook all the rest of them because people wanted more vitamins. And then once they tried it, it tastes great, so they just stayed on it. So in the UK, in Ireland, it's still the green one. In Australia, the green one failed because traditionally in Ireland and UK, we would take apples and we'd take berries. The berries or apples don't work in Australia, so they like mango, passion fruit, orange, pineapple, those kind of more tropical fruits.
It's been said, well, you have said that sometimes founders have to get out of their own way. I mean, great advice.
So you're not doing that?
Well, I'm trying. I do less and less of these. It's only because it's you, Gary.
You're right.
But, you know, it's great advice. Can you talk to me a little bit about... Well, that, but also shaping the team, the growth of the team. At some point, it wasn't just you on a scooter. I know your wife also works in the business and handles your marketing and comms, etc. How did you build the team up? What does it look like now? You know, you're a business turning over 100 million in retail sales. What does your team look like today? How did you grow that? What came first?
Yeah, well, again, it comes back to know what you're good at. And one of the things that I'm good at is knowing what I'm bad at, right? So I wasn't good at building a team. I got a few things right, but I took in a CEO back in 2019 because I realized the company was, I was doing things that I didn't enjoy doing, and I needed to go back to the stuff that I do well, which is creating products, talking to retailers, talking to distributors. So we got a CEO in actually, it's an interesting story. I was in a bar in Dublin, and my brother, who is one of the sharpest people you'll know, was kind of sitting. He was an oil trader, and algorithms started beating his oil trades. So he went back at the most expensive time in his life, 50 years of age, 3 kids still in school, and went to college for a year, and basically just stopped trading. And he came out of college, and he'd just done an MBA. And it was about 3 months later, and a friend of mine turns to me and goes, "You're some bleep idiot." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Because your brother's the sharpest guy in the room and you haven't hired him." And I was like, "That's a good point." So I hired my brother
really?
into the company. He ended up becoming CEO. And from the day he came in, turnover has doubled.
Wow.
So,
God, so you're working with your wife and your brother.
I know, yeah.
But I work with lots of friends. It's great.
Yeah, but I don't.
You hope that they're not going to knife you. That's
Yeah,
the nice
I
thing
know.
about it.
But it's funny. We work together, but we don't really, because they work in an office and I don't work in an office.
So they're based in Ireland. That's where head office is.
Yes. So there we have a head office with about 18 people working in Ireland. We've got 10 people here in the UK. And my wife works in Dubai with me, and my brother, who's CEO, works in Dublin.
Gosh.
So yeah, we just. But he built a team around himself. So he's a kind of a figures guy. I'm not. So he got a team of like 6 accountants, 3 logistics people to make sure the product goes from A to B, and he just kind of built that team around him, which I really wasn't capable of doing. And it's freed the company up for me to do what I can do well, and for everybody else to do what they do well. And that's how we got a lot of growth. So I got out of my way.
I did the same. I gave Charlotte the role as editor-in-chief, and it was a great move. So.
Yeah.
You know,
and then you can do the fun things.
Or the less fun things. Anyway, you haven't taken outside investment. People listening who manufacture products will understand how huge that is and how difficult it is to scale a business to the size you have, with as many retailers as you have. Without that cash flow is everything. I mean, for people who are not in that world, you obviously have to pay for products to be made before you've sold them, and payment terms don't always go in your favour when you're working with supermarkets, etc. So, cash flow is the most challenging thing for businesses in those sort of early years in particular. Yeah. It's pretty phenomenal that you've got to here where you have. Like, I can't underestimate how rare I think that is. Why? How? Any advice on that?
At the start,
mega interesting.
At the start, when I was going through all of that stress, had someone come to me and handed me a big wad of cash and say, "We'll dig you out of this and we'll take 20, 30, 40% of your company," I would have said yes, because I was desperate. But there was no option back then. So things have changed, and thankfully that option wasn't available, because had I... if you're drowning and someone puts their hand up and wants to save you, you'll take the hand off. With funding, which is readily available today, it wasn't available back then. So I had no option but just to get out in a car, drive across the country and start selling. And that option is not really taken these days. So if companies are I help people out for free in young companies that are coming through, and they contact me on LinkedIn, and I'll always take a half an hour with them, and I say to them, "How are you getting on?" They said, "Well, we're all of them started losing money." I would always say to them, "So where are you?" And they, "Oh, we're losing, let's say $100,000 a year. We're now taking an investment." And I say, "Okay, why?" And they would say, "Well, we need it for cash flow." And I'd say, "Okay, how many stores are you in?" And they'll always say, I always write it down, and they'll always say 100, and I'll hold it up and I'll have 100 here. And I'll say, "Get up off your arse, stop being so lazy, go sell the product into like 500 stores, and then the money you're going to raise, if you still need it, will be a lot less, and you'll have to give away a lot less of the company, and you'll take in a lot more money." And most of them don't do it. They always take the easy option. So I always say it's like skipping leg day in the gym. I've skipped leg day for 30 years because you don't like doing the hard things. Yeah. So had funding been available to me back then, I would have taken it. I'm glad it never happened. The company is still 100% privately owned, and we've grown every year for the past 15 years at 18% a year, because we can't actually grow any faster because it would spin out all the cash. So we have to make a certain amount of profit, put it back in, put a certain amount into marketing. And that's what my brother and his team of accountants are great at. They hold me back from making stupid decisions like throwing lots of money on the back of tube trains and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Talk to me about working with your wife. I mean, a lot of founders who work with their spouse partners.
Yeah.
And I always say how interesting I think it is. She is a dream. I've met her. And you're very different
we are,
characters.
Yeah. So that's how it works.
Is that why it works?
Yeah. So when I first met her, she was the brand manager for Jägermeister and Corona in Ireland.
Was she?
Yeah. When we first met, she was working for this company. And after about 4 years, she was getting a bit of hassle from one of her bosses. And I just said, like, why are you still working there? Why don't you just come and work for us? And she was like, really? Do you want me to work with you? I'm like, yeah, why not? So on the first day that she started, she phoned me up and she was talking about a logo change in color and whatever. I said, why are you talking to me like this? And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, you are now the head of marketing. Go do your job. I don't want to hear about it. She was like, all right. Because I knew that she's sharp enough. She knows the brand. She knew the brand after 4 years. She knew pretty much all I did about the brand. I knew she was going to do a great job because she had all this experience. So effectively, she's never phoned me again to do with anything to do with the company. So we actually don't work together, even though we work in the same firm. Like, there's never cross paths where we're sitting opposite a desk getting stressed about something. That just doesn't happen.
Do you love to chat about it? Do you find it...
Yeah. If there's exciting things, like every founder, if you've got something exciting to happen, you'll go home and tell your husband, and hopefully he'll listen to you. So we do chat about like things that happen in the company, good and bad, but it's not like major dinner table chat. It's just good and bad things. And then sometimes in the evening, when, like, let's say she's a worrier and I'm not, so sometimes she'll say, oh look, this is happening and we really need to get it sorted, and I'm just about to have my dinner. I'm going, can we just talk about this tomorrow, or not talk about it at all?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And then we just get on to more fun things.
Great dream. Sounds like it's working brilliantly.
Yeah.
This category has grown. It didn't exist when you started. Fast forward from the early noughties to 2025, and quite a lot of brands have cottoned on to the fact that these drinks are quite good. There's quite a market for us.
Yeah.
You are maintaining your position in the market. How are you doing that? How do you cope with the pressure of doing that and balance? I guess you've got your brother saying, Gary, you can't do it all at once, but you need to innovate, don't you? You need to keep your position.
Yeah, well, look, we're constantly innovating. That was one of the things I was doing yesterday down in the lab with the hairnet and coat. I should have brought them up here today for you.
You should.
Yeah, and
I could have worn one too.
Yeah, so we're always looking to innovate and basically broaden the category. But yeah, there's a hell of a lot of people in Ireland, the UK. A lot of brands have seen our success, and we are, kind of get vaguely copied or directly copied a lot. And there's nothing you can do about it now, but we have to innovate and we have to just keep driving the sales. And like I said, the more people that come into the category gets bigger, as long as we are helping drive the category. And actually in the UK with growth last year, we drove 85% of the category growth in the UK. So we're still the ones that are bringing the category to a new place. And I think that's probably down to persistence, first of all, because I came here in around 2011, 2012, and just building it slowly. But it's also down to the right branding. It's pretty obvious when you see it, what it does on the shelf. And then once people try it once, it tastes great. And we know that within stores, when we start selling, you might do 10 units week 1, 14 units week 2, and then you might do 28 to 30 units per flavour once you're in week 5 and week 6. So that means that people are trying it and they're coming back again and again. So the brand still isn't really well known, believe it or not, in the UK. We did some research recently and we found that only 15% of people in the UK recognise the brand, even though we're in 9,000 or 10,000 stores. So we've still got a lot of work to do there. So
well, that's exciting, isn't it? Because there's just still so much upside despite where you are now.
Yeah, there's a really high ceiling.
Are there any other key moments that when you look back on your career, you go, that was a highlight, that was a low point? Are there any other moments you can share with us today that have been particularly significant, for better or worse?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I just had one. So I cycled here. I'm staying in Covent Garden. I cycled up here. It's about a 25-minute cycle. And I popped into a Tesco And there we are on the shelves. And I only get to London once a year and I love the place. And isn't London amazing when the sun is shining? It's like an ad for London at the moment. It's brilliant.
It is.
I got on the bike
give it a couple of days. I don't think it's going to break because it's going to be too hot.
Yeah, true. I know. But like, it's better than rain. So I was cycling then to Tesco, and then I came up here to your office, and pretty much next door, there's a Sainsbury's there. And I walked in there, and right at head height, which is the perfect place you want, there's 7 bottles of VitHit staring at me on the shelf. And I thought back to 2011 in the 400 square foot flat, trying to make phone calls and wondering would I ever get listed with anybody, and then finally get listing with Boots. So that this morning was just a great moment for me. We're now in all the retailers.
That literally brings tears to my eyes. Yeah. I mean, it's such a journey. How cool that literally our little Sainsbury's there is stocked. I buy it there loads.
Yeah, and like that was my dream. Like I was not so long ago, I was sitting in the flat making phone calls, and I was like, I'd just love to be on the shelves in Sainsbury's, Boots and Tesco someday, and now we are. So I never forget that. Like that's what keeps me going.
Which markets are you most excited about coming up? You're obviously Ireland, UK. You talked about some other markets earlier. Yeah. Does US feature in the plans?
Yeah, so the most exciting markets at the moment are France and Spain. So we're started in Paris. We've got good distribution there, and we're trying to broaden it. We're putting like maybe 1,000 retailers around Paris. So that's really exciting. That's going well. But the real fun one at the moment is Spain. So I went to a distribution conference, and I was sitting beside this guy, and I said, "Oh, where are you from?" He says, "I'm from Spain." Blah, blah. We start chatting, and I said, "What do you do?" And he's a distributor. And then he said, "What do we do?" And I said, "Oh, I make a vitamin drink." And he said, "It's not this one." And he takes out his phone. He had a picture of it. And I said, "Yeah, where did you get that?" And he said, "Oh, I took it in W.H. Smith in Madrid airport." And I was like, "Wow." And he goes,
always buy you in the airport and take you on the plane.
Yeah, for traveling.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Can I distribute it?" And I'm like, "Okay." So it was just a random seating. So cool. And it turns out that they're the biggest and best independent distributor in Spain. And they have done a phenomenal start for the last kind of 6 months since they took the brand on. And so that's really exciting.
That's really exciting. Yeah. That's really exciting. Any final words of advice and wisdom for people listening today as a guy who has been at it a long time and come through? Failure is a given, right? So any parents out there, let your kids fail, let them lose at sport. Not everybody getting a medal is a really bad idea. You need to learn how to fail. And from being a sports person, I was losing rugby matches, getting dropped, getting injured. That is many failures and heartbreaking as a young kid when you're growing up. But guess what it does? It trains you for older when you're older, that not everybody wins. So people always say to me, how did you keep going through all that thing? I was used to failure. So we were failing all the time. Every business keeps failing. Your products might not look great on the shelf. You might not be selling. So just hang in there and take a small step every day towards success. And the last thing I would say is that do one thing every day that scares you. So let's say you're sitting there and you're in an office and you hate your job today and you want to build a business. Tonight, just make that phone call, find out the manufacturer, just do something that you've been putting off for ages. And if you take a step every day towards success, like it's a long way towards success, it might be too far to even see, but if you take a step towards success every day, then eventually you'll get there. I like that. Well, you're there and there's clearly loads more to come. I think it's pretty obvious that I'm a mega fan of VitHit. Thank you very much. As are all the girls in our office. It's great to see it on so many people's desks. And thank you so much for joining me. Thanks a million for having me. It's been great. Really interesting chat. Thanks a million. Thank you for sharing it. If you enjoyed that, then do please rate, review, subscribe. Tell your friends to listen to drink VitHit too. And we will be back soon. Bye-bye.